These are the top celebrities that disappeared from Hollywood in 2023. You won't believe where some of them are now. Number 10. Drake Bell. Drake Bell kicked off his career at just 5 years old when he appeared in the sitcom Home Improvements. But he really came to prominence with his starring roles in two smash hit Nickelodeon shows, The Amanda Show and the show that has Drake's own name in the title, Drake and Josh. His life hasn't gone smoothly in recent years, and he's had several run-ins with the law. Even though he seemed to recover, he's been quiet recently, with his last notable appearance being an episode of Robot Chicken in 2022. But with a new movie Fang Bone on the horizon, you might be thinking he doesn't deserve to be on this list. But he's actually here for a surprising reason. He literally disappeared. On Thursday, April 13th, a very concerning post appeared on the Daytona Beach Police Department's Facebook page. They were asking for help because Drake was missing and possibly endangered. They said he'd last been seen driving his car the evening before, but nobody had been able to contact him since. It didn't sound good, but luckily they later discovered that he was totally fine. Drake later posted on his social media to explain that the incident was just a big misunderstanding. He'd simply left his phone in the car and he decided to go to sleep instead of going to find it. When nobody could contact him, they panicked. Drake's brother was especially worried because he knew Drake had been handed divorce papers recently, and he thought that might have made him emotionally unstable. But nothing like that had happened. He was just a little lazy that evening. We've all been there. Hearing that Drake was alright was pretty good news. Unfortunately, not all stars were so lucky. Number 9. Julian Sands. The acclaimed British-born actor Julian Sands made a huge mark on Hollywood. He started out in the 80s with roles in the classic films The Killing Fields and A Room with a View. He went on to star in other smash hits from Ocean's 13 and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo to prominent TV roles in 24 and Smallville. Obviously, he had loads of fans with all those credits, so it's not surprising that he made headlines in January 2023. But this time, it wasn't because he was appearing in another beloved film. His family had reported him missing. It was the night of January 13th, about 1 week after Julian's 65th birthday, and his family called the police. They told him that Julian had gone out for a hike on a California mountain, but he never came home. If you think they were panicking a little too early, they had good reason. This was around the time of record snowfall in California. Not only was the mountain freezing cold, but there had also been reports of avalanches that day. They tried to find him, but it quickly became clear they couldn't go looking very far without endangering the lives of the rescuers. The snow kept coming, and search efforts slowed down more and more. Weeks later, they were still looking for Julian. He wasn't seen again until over 5 months later on June 24th, when some hikers made a grisly discovery. They'd been walking in the area where Julian had gone missing when they saw something they never wanted to see and called the police. 3 days later, the detectives confirmed that the hikers had discovered Julian's body. They can't say exactly what happened to him. They only know that his phone appeared to run out of batteries, so he had no way of calling for help. But he might never have had the chance anyway, because some speculate he was caught in an avalanche. All we know is that Hollywood lost a great actor. Julian's disappearance ended in tragedy, but luckily, not all of the people who have vanished from Hollywood this year have such a sad story. In fact, the next person on our list is doing great. Number 8. Frankie Muniz. Let's face it, Malcolm in the Middle was one of the most iconic shows of all time. It was something the whole family could enjoy together, and there's no doubt it brought a lot of success for its young star, Frankie Muniz. But it's also true that we haven't seen Frankie around much lately. People seem to be noticing that he's avoiding the spotlight. But does that mean he's quit Hollywood? Not exactly. Frankie obviously made a lot of money from that series, and he decided to be smart with it. He started his series of business investments by buying car parks around downtown LA. That's a pretty great investment choice, because it's a guaranteed passive income. It's not even close to being the most interesting thing he's done recently. He tried out a career in open-wheel racing, which is an adrenaline-filled hobby that requires a lot of cash to get into. He also went into music, performing as a drummer with the pop rock band Kingsfoil from Pennsylvania. He eventually had to quit music because of scheduling issues, but that only led him back into the world of business. He bought a business called Outrageous Olive Oils and Vinegars in Scottsdale back in 2018. He ran it with his wife for years. When she got pregnant in 2021 and the couple found out the doctors were concerned, they sold the business to give their baby the best chance possible of being born. It worked, and they're now the proud parents of a toddler. He seems to enjoy family life, but as we said, even with all this, he hasn't 100% quit the limelight. He says he may still do more acting, but he's very selective about the projects he gets involved in. So we'll just have to wait and see what he pops up in next. Frankie left Hollywood to focus on things he loves doing, but the next star didn't have a choice. Number 7. Cara Delevingne. Cara Delevingne's career literally could not have been going any better. The supermodel's acting career has been going pretty smoothly since her role in Paper Towns and, of course, Suicide Squad. But in September last year, fans became seriously concerned after two big things happened. Firstly, she was apparently a no-show at the New York Fashion Week launch of her own fashion collection collaboration with the late Karl Lagerfeld, called Cara Loves Karl. Then she was snapped by the paparazzi not long after. The photos showed her at Los Angeles airport with her dog, and she did not look like her usual self. She seemed disheveled with no makeup on and unbrushed hair. She seemed unsteady when she walked, and worst of all, she wasn't wearing any shoes, just dirty yellow socks. For someone who normally makes sure she's perfectly dressed and made up, it was quite a shock to see her like that. She hung around for 45 minutes before boarding Jay-Z's private jet and taking off. She confused everyone a month later by making an appearance at the Paris Fashion Week launch of her Cara Loves Karl collection, where she seemed perfectly fine. Unfortunately, she wasn't. In April, she revealed in a Vogue interview that she'd been suffering from a substance abuse problem. That's a pretty easy thing to fall into when you're in the fashion industry and Hollywood. She says she's working on solving her problem and herself, which explains why she hasn't made many appearances recently. But her fans don't need to worry. She's getting help, and she will be appearing in the upcoming season of American Horror Story. We're sure she'll be back at the top of her game soon. Cara isn't the only celebrity on our list who's been suffering from some pretty serious personal problems lately. That's sadly true for the next person on our list too. Number 6. Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley needs no introduction, and not just because she's still using Elvis Presley's name. Even at 78 years old, the actress still held her place in the spotlight until this year. But it's no secret that her recent disappearance has a lot to do with another high-profile celebrity death. On January 12th, her daughter, the singer Lisa Marie Presley, unexpectedly died of a heart attack. Priscilla was understandably devastated by the loss and has been lying low to deal with her sadness. Sure, her daughter was 54 when she died, but that doesn't make it any easier to lose a child. We're hoping to see her back in the spotlight again soon. Priscilla definitely had a pretty bad reason for stepping out of the spotlight. But luckily, not all of the celebrities on this list left Hollywood because something went wrong, as the next person on the list proves. Number 5. Dylan Sprouse. Dylan Sprouse was one of the biggest names in TV when he and his twin brother landed their own show, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. From that show, they moved on to a spin-off project called The Sweet Life on Deck, which was also pretty popular. But as you can imagine, the life of a star comes with some pretty demanding hours. Filming days are long, and there's still press and red carpet appearances to do in between. It can be a lot tougher than people realize. As Dylan got older, he decided it wasn't exactly the life he wanted. He hasn't ruled out doing more acting in the future, but if you haven't seen him around lately and it made you wonder where he's gone, he's actually focusing on other things. While attending college, he began experimenting with brewing drinks, discovering that he really loved it. He put a team of business partners together and opened the All Wise Meadery in New York. They kept expanding, and now their mead isn't only found in multiple states in the US, but it's also available as far away as Hungary. But there's also another reason he's been so busy in 2023. Some of you probably still think of him as the little in the sweet life. But he's actually all grown up now. This year, he married his long-term girlfriend, the Victoria's Secret model Barbara Palvin. But if you're a fan and you're wishing he'd just go back to acting already, you're in luck. He's got a new film out finally called Beautiful Disaster, which slipped under the radar with a very limited cinema release, but you might be able to stream it if you're interested. Not everyone who stepped out of the spotlight did it because they wanted to. The next star on our list had a tough decision to make. Number 4. Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox is one of those stars who has woven himself into the fabric of our culture, thanks to his iconic role in the Back to the Future franchise. Even before that, he'd spent more than enough time delighting audiences over 174 episodes of the classic show Family Ties. But we all know life hasn't been easy for the beloved star. In 1991, just 1 year after the third Back to the Future film came out, Michael was tragically diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. This came as a shock to millions of people, especially because that disease is normally associated with much older people, and Michael was only 30. It slowed down his career, as he had to take a lot more time than most actors to take care of himself. He wasn't physically able to make as many films as his obsessive fans would have liked, but mostly they were just happy every time they saw he was okay. So at the moment, you can bet they're getting a little worried. The last film role he had was a voice acting role in a movie called Back Home Again in 2019. His TV appearances aren't looking much better. His last role was in the miniseries Expedition Back to the Future in 2021. So, where is he? Well, he's been watching the Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In that movie, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, struggles to remember his lines. That resonated with Michael, who had been facing a similar problem while filming the TV series The Good Fight. It seems his disease has finally got to him, and he's decided to retire for good. Want to see him once more? Well, a documentary about his life called Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, was released earlier this year. Michael J. Fox isn't the only actor on this list who has been struggling with their health. In fact, he's not even the only person named Fox who's had health problems. Just ask number 3, Jamie Foxx. Oscar-winning actor and musician Jamie Foxx is one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. The Django Unchained and J star shows no signs of slowing down, with a whopping 4 movies due for release in 2023. He was the last person anyone expected to disappear from Hollywood this year. But not everything went to plan. On April 12th, his daughter Corinne made a shocking announcement. Jamie had been rushed to hospital. She only described his condition as a medical emergency without saying anything further. Obviously, his fans were very worried about him, and rumors that he was gravely ill were only making things worse. With people speculating that the star was going to pass away unexpectedly early, Corinne made another announcement to set the record straight. This time, it was good news. She said her father was out of the hospital and recovering. She still didn't announce what had happened, but the media uncovered some information that indicated he was being treated at a facility in Chicago specializing in strokes and brain injuries. So, we might never know exactly what happened to him, but it doesn't sound good. That only makes us even happier to see that he's back on his feet and looking good. Jamie Foxx isn't the only Hollywood star who took time off for their health. The next person on our list did the same thing. Number 2, Tom Holland. Anyone in the Marvel Universe becomes an instant star, And Spider-Man Tom Holland is no different. But the English-born star has totally disappeared this year. He hasn't even been active on social media. You can bet fans are wondering if he's even returning to the Marvel Universe. Well, we have good news. He definitely is, but not for a while. Tom decided he needed to take a year off after making a thriller called The Crowded Room, which he both starred in and produced. And the reason is pretty surprising. The character he plays is based on notorious criminal Billy Milligan. He committed 4 horrifying crimes before becoming the first person to be found not guilty by reason of insanity in his trial. He suffered from dissociative identity disorder and claimed to have 24 different personalities. Why are we telling you this? Because it's pretty important to understand the kinds of things Tom had to have in his head to play this character convincingly. He claims he was experiencing emotions he'd never felt before and was having trouble leaving the character behind at work. Tom said he started seeing bits of the character in himself, and it seemed to be following him into his personal life. Sure, it's essential to empathize with a character if you want to be a great actor, and that's true even if it's a very ill or evil character. But you don't want it following you home. On top of this, Tom had extra responsibilities as a producer behind the camera, which he's not used to. It's pretty tough work. When the show finished filming, he decided he needed a break after almost having a meltdown. But his year off is almost over. He should be returning to Hollywood in October or November, which is good news for Spider-Man fans. Tom isn't the only actor who stepped away from Hollywood to focus on his family. The last megastar on our list did the same thing in a very different way. Number 1. Sophie Turner. Sophie Turner is one of those stars who shot to fame in one of the biggest hits ever created. For that reason, she might be recognized even better by her character's name, Sansa Stark. Her role in Game of Thrones made her face instantly recognizable in homes around the world. That's a pretty big deal. It also means you basically lose your privacy completely. Sophie made it clear that she loves fans talking to her, and she didn't even mind the paparazzi photographing her like some stars do. But things changed a few years ago. In 2019, she married another star, Joe Jonas. About a year later, she gave birth to their first child, a daughter named Willa. She's loving being a mom, but her break from Hollywood has been longer than it should have been. That's because the paparazzi somehow snapped a picture of her baby girl. Sophie was not okay with that. She explained that she hasn't been posting photos of her child on social media for a reason, and having the media display photos of her baby for the whole world to see really upset her. That's totally understandable. While she knew what she was signing up for when she became an actress, she doesn't want to post photos of her child for anyone to see. She's not even close to being old enough to consent to that for a start. So when Sophie gave birth to her second daughter last year, she became even more determined to stay out of the spotlight to protect the privacy of her children. She hasn't even made her second daughter's name public. We don't know when Sophie will be back. It might be a long time before the paparazzi decide to back off, and she feels like she can come back to Hollywood and keep her children safe at the same time. These stars all had pretty good reasons to leave Hollywood, but not everyone's quitting. Some stars are only shining brighter. In fact, these actresses are the richest in Hollywood. Want to know who has the biggest bank balance? Click here.